Sound good? Want to know how to do this? Well, it's not as hard as some people might think. Smokers do this all the time. Anybody in here either smoke or used to smoke? Could I see your hands? Okay, you're very brave for raising your hand. I appreciate that. But it's probably used to, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, now the reason I'm asking, by the way, is because every time I've asked someone who either smokes or used to smoke, does or did smoking help you deal with stress? They almost always say yes. Now, by the way, I'm not going to recommend that you take up smoking. There's a little problem with it. It kind of kills you. But why do you think smokers would say smoking helps them deal with stress? What do you think it is about smoking that smokers would say? I'm just curious. Yes? They have a belief. Very good. Matter of fact, this belief has smokers paying a lot of attention to their stress, their frustration. I don't know if you've ever worked with a smoker, because when they get stressed and frustrated and anxious, they say, man, I need a cigarette. And they stop doing whatever they're doing, and they go out to the dumpster, because that's the only place we'll let them smoke anymore, is out by the dumpster. And smokers will have a ritual or a routine. They'll tap their pack about the same way each time. You know, it's been 2 or 3 hours since they've had their last cigarette, so they're really looking forward. So they light up and they go, tip gets really red, just like that. Then they savor it for a moment. Then they let it go, and trees blow for miles around. It's amazing. Let me show you what that feels like. Everybody take a deep breath. Now let it go with a lot of noise. Feel good? I'm thinking that's another reason smokers say smoking helps them deal with stress. I'm thinking it's probably one of the few times in their life that they take a deep breath. Which means for us non-smokers, we never take a deep breath. We go around going, or if we're stressed, we go, where we stop breathing altogether. And by the way, the Surgeon General has just come out with a brand new 10-year study that proves beyond a shadow of doubt that stopping breathing can be very detrimental to your health. See, the good news is whenever you're feeling out of control, and I think that's fair to say one of the characteristics of the world of the undermined is feeling out of control, right? Because if we could control any at all or all of this stuff, where's the stress? The good news is, whenever we're feeling out of control, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, there is always one thing we can control, and that is our breathing. The bad news about that is, this is not the first time you've heard this, is it? And, take a deep breath. Don't worry. Be happy. Don't you just want to slap them when they say that? Because we know that if all we do is breathe deeply in the middle of one of these stressful situations, we're just going to hyperventilate sooner or later. Because it doesn't change anything. So I promise you we're not going to stop there. But we are going to start there, and here's why. Remember I told you we had these 3 parts to the brain. The brainstem, limbic system, neocortex. Do you remember which part of the brain I said normally controls our breathing? Brainstem, exactly. Now, when we decide to take a deep breath, which part of the brain is making that decision? Neocortex. You see, the reason that breathing is a great place to start, that's right, you can do this all day long when you go back home, and at least your friend will know exactly what you're talking about. There you go. Yeah. It's good to support each other, absolutely. You see, the reason this is an effective place to start is that it has the neocortex, this upper 80% of the brain, taking over one of the functions normally controlled by the lower 20% of the brain. So that's why breathing is a great place to start. Number 1, we can always control it. And number 2, when we breathe on purpose, that is coming from our neocortex. And we know there's way more stuff going on here than just taking a deep breath is going to fix, right? So let's don't oversimplify this. For instance, you mentioned tension. I think that's absolutely true. Let me show you what that feels like. Everybody get really tense. Some people say, what do you mean get tense? I've been tense for 10 years. What are you talking about? Just tense up every muscle all over your body. Tense it up. Now imagine doing something. See, in some way we can't. We're fighting through our own muscle tension. That's why this is so exhausting. That's why we can come to work and 2 or 3 hours later we're exhausted. Not because we've done a lot of physical labor, but because we've gotten tense and we're carrying this tension all the way through our day. Now, the good news is there is a nice word in our culture that will deal very nicely with this tension, and that word is relax. But there's a little bit of a problem with that word. Have you ever gone up to somebody who's really stressed and said, listen, if you just relax, They slap you, don't they? Tell me to relax. See, we've got a thing in our culture that says if you're not stressed, you must not have enough to do. It is. Or if you're not stressed, you must not care about your kids and your family and your job. That's why when you ask someone how they're doing, very few people say, man, I am so relaxed, I tell you. They go, oh, God, you would not believe what I'm having to deal with, which basically says, I have plenty to do, thank you. Do not give me any more. So you see, the problem is we have a tendency to see the word relax as give in, give up. Matter of fact, in our culture, we have a name for people who relax before they've checked off everything on their list. We call them lazy slackers, absolutely. So you see the problem. We're holding on to our stress to prove that we care about our kids and our job, and we can't relax until we've checked off everything on our list. Well, you never check off everything on your list. You just add to the list, right? So for some people, they never relax. So in order to be able to bring this into part of the process, you've seen sports figures. Swimmers are great at this. Have you ever seen a swimmer about to dive into the pool? They're doing this, man. They're up there. They're getting really relaxed because it allows them, their body to work with them versus against them. But we've got to change the meaning of the word relax. When I think of the word relax, it means something other than giving up and giving in. Reminds me of growing up in a small town in East Texas. My mom and dad had been married 25 years before I was born, and I was their only child. Some people go, oh, he's one of those kids. Okay, all right, now we get it, Yeah, Mom went to the doctor when she was 45 and said, Doc, I'm sick. And he goes, no, you're pregnant. And she goes, stress. Was not a planned child. But it was kind of the good news. The reason it was kind of the good news is because my dad had been drinking 22 of those 25 years. He had stopped drinking 3 years before I was born. So instead of being born in the home of an active alcoholic, I was born in the home of a recovering alcoholic. Thank you, Lord. Because there's a big difference, trust me. The way that my dad stayed sober through the program of AA, man, did we go to AA meetings? We went to 3 to 5 AA meetings a week. I thought it's what everybody did, you know. Kind of like going to McDonald's for me, you know. And after a while, I got old enough to read the walls of AA meetings. And boy, there's great stuff on the walls of AA meetings. Like, let go and let God, one day at a time, great stuff. My favorite, however, became the Serenity Prayer, which is everywhere in AA meeting, by the way. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Become a very popular prayer. You can now get that prayer on a refrigerator magnet, which means it must be true. You can get what you believe on a refrigerator magnet. But I think sometimes we think of the prayer like this. Okay, I got to change what I can. I guess I'll accept the rest. And then I'll finally get some serenity. Serenity now, as Seinfeld would say. You know? Is anything wrong with that? See, it's backwards. It's not called the get it all done prayer. Or the check everything off my list prayer. Or the make other people be the way I want them to be prayer. It's called the serenity prayer, which means what is asked for first in the prayer? Serenity. What if that is not like an accident? Matter of fact, what if the prayer isn't a plea for serenity? What if it is a formula for success? Notice how it goes. God, grant me the serenity to first accept the things I cannot change. How much of your stress, frustration, anger, tense, worry would be gone if you could accept the things you cannot change? Maybe not all, but a significant amount, don't you think? What if the serenity prayer goes that way on purpose? God, grant me the serenity so that I might first accept the things I cannot change, so that then I have the courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference. In other words, what if serenity is the precursor to acceptance, courage, wisdom, and change? So what we're talking about here is not just relaxation. What we're really talking about is a deeper concept of serenity that allows us to, and by the way, serenity is a neocortex concept, allows us to bring a certain amount of awareness to the situation and a certain amount of purposefulness in terms of where we put our energy. So given that we've made this pretty important, like serenity is the precursor to everything, let me ask you, since you're the expert in your life, about how many minutes per day, on average, would you say you spend creating serenity in your life? 0, right? I mean, we wake up in the morning and we punch the alarm, and now we're about 10 minutes late, and now so we rush around and we're stressed and we're rushing and stressed until about 10:30 at night when we're sitting there watching reruns of Seinfeld thinking, finally I get some serenity. See, that's not serenity, that's exhaustion because we're waiting till the end of the day to do it. So notice what is going on here. Try this. Take a deep breath. Now say the word relax on the exhale. Relax. If we were to do that 3 to 5 times, you would become more and more relaxed because, once again, we have the neocortex taking over a function of the brainstem. Normally, the brainstem produces muscle tension. But when the neocortex is giving a consistent and repeated message to the brainstem and the rest of our body to relax, and when that's paired with our breathing, which we control, then what happens is the body begins to gradually relax. Now, the nice thing about these 2 steps is these deal very nicely with the physiological components of stress, but it's still not complete. Let's look at what I call the psychological components of stress. I call it the negative self-talk, the things we say to ourselves, or especially the kind of questions we ask ourselves. I'm going to suggest that when we're caught in our brainstem, we are asking what I call brainstem questions. And questions are very powerful in terms of what part of our brain is engaged. They're kind of like Google on steroids, man. I mean, they are huge because notice what we're doing. What is wrong with these kids? Why don't they, and how come I don't have enough money? And why don't they give me time to do this project? And man, how come I'm dealing with this whiny staff or this boss? And what's with these phones and this email and this page? And what's with these parents? Why don't they just let them? You notice that? Brainstem questions. Understandable, but they engage the very lower part of our brain. So what I suggest we do is take a deep breath. Say that. Say the word relax on the exhale. Relax. And ask ourselves what I call neocortex questions. Questions that can only be answered by the upper 80% of our brain. One question that I really love that it can only be answered by the upper 80% of our brain. And just imagine we're caught in one of these cycles. We breathe, use the word relax, and ask ourselves the question, okay, what is my highest purpose here? Now, I like that because it is a neocortex question and it begins to engage this part of the brain. There's only one problem with it. Some people look at me and go, wait a minute, Bill, highest purpose. What are you talking about? Like world peace, feeding the hungry? What does that mean? So what I've done is I found a quote that might help us kind of engage this higher purpose concept. It says, every thought, emotion, and action is a statement about who we are and who we are becoming. And I've added to that, why not make this statement on purpose? See, my guess is very few people here in the audience are doing this on purpose. Right? Nobody says, I know when I'm dealing with kids and money and time and whiny staff, I'm going to get stressed, angry, overwhelmed, and frustrated. Yeah, that's a good idea. We just find ourselves doing it. So if we're not doing it on purpose, what if we ask ourselves, okay, what if my highest purpose was defining who I am, making a statement about who I am? Because my guess is, just as this is not a very purposeful reaction, my guess is this is not a very purposeful statement we're making about who we are. I am someone who is stressed and angry and overwhelmed and tired and really angry and sad and tense and worried. And yet, when we say, man, these kids really stress me out. This lack of money really overwhelms me. This lack of time and these people really make me angry. Whenever we say this, makes us this. What we're saying is the negative situations and the negative people in our lives have the power to define us. Dramatic pause. See, my guess is you don't want these situations and these people having that kind of power in your life. Fair to say? Okay, so let me show you how to take on that power yourselves. Nicole, here we go, Nicole. Here's your second opportunity to help. Let's give Nicole a hand. Yay, Nicole. Thank you, Nicole. If you were right on purpose right up there, and just then put that on this side of the paper, whatever they say. Okay. If you are responding to life on purpose, deliberately, in a way that made a statement about who you are as a professional, as a husband, as a wife, as a friend, as a partner, what would be the qualities and characteristics you would like to be able to draw upon. Yes? Empathetic problem solving. Very nice. Good. Another way to ask this question is, in dealing with difficult people, difficult situations, I would like to be more peaceful, and someone said calm. Patient, yes, that's a big one, isn't it? Peaceful, calm, and patient. Good. What else? Therapeutic. Very nice. What a concept, right? Yes, that's what we're all about. Therapeutic. Good. What else? Tolerant. Very nice. I'm sorry? Positive. Very nice. Realistic. Very nice. Positive and realistic. Those go that unrealistic expectations we were talking. Yes, I bet. Creative. Ooh, very nice. Truthful. Courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, reverent, all that kind of stuff. Truthful. Confident. Is that something you'd like to be more? Confident. That's part of the title. Might as well put that in there. Good. What else? Effective. Very nice. Informed. Knowledgeable. Very nice. And since we're probably running out of time a little bit, just go ahead and put et cetera, down there at the bottom. And we will do that. We'll let that list represent any way you would choose to react. Here's your CD. Thank you so much. Let's give Nicole a hand. She did a great job. Yay, Nicole. You did that so well. You know, we could go on the road. You could be Vanna. This could be a whole new career for you. Good stuff. Okay, so what you're saying basically is if you are responding to life on purpose, deliberately, in a way that made a statement about who you are as a person, as a professional, as a wife, as a husband, as a mother, as a father. You would like to be more empathetic, better problem solver, peaceful, calm, patient, therapeutic, tolerant, positive, realistic, good, creative, truthful, confident, effective, informative, knowledgeable, and we probably could have gone on and on. What if I could show you how to react to this with this? And the crowd goes, wow, thank you so much. That's like, yeah. Would this be worth your hour this morning, you know, waiting for now to catch your plane? Worth it? Yeah, fair to say? Okay. That's what this is all about. Now, notice a couple of things about these two lists. Notice where these qualities and characteristics come from. Neocortex. By the same token, notice where these qualities and characteristics come from. Brainstem. Remember, this is not bad or wrong. If someone's coming at you with a hatchet, you should probably be very worried about that, you know. Don't give them a group hug. That's not exactly what you want to do, you know. Therapeutic and tolerant probably isn't the point you want to pull there. But remember, so many of our experiences in life aren't really fight or flight in nature. And I think we could all agree if we could access some or more of these qualities, we would be more effective. Because unfortunately, when we get all stressed up and know where to go, have you noticed people don't pay as much attention to us? They kind of write off what we're saying. But if we come from a more confident, patient, calm perspective, it's often very powerful. Now, this is easier said than done, so what I want to do is help you as much as possible with this. So I have created what I call 4 Neocortex questions that should do 2 things. It should allow you to evaluate whether you want to hang on to any of this, and it should be able to help you generate the qualities or characteristics you would choose if you are responding to a situation on purpose. The first one, was this thought or emotion chosen on purpose? I think we can look at this and say, very few of us get angry, frustrated, tense on purpose. The second one, I asked you at the very beginning, how's it working for me, you know? Is it really helping me be more effective, or is it just bringing that resentment on? The third one, which we've talked about a little bit, is it making the statement I want to make about who I am? Do I really want to define myself as stressed, angry, overwhelmed, tired, tense, worried? And most people would say no. And the fourth one, I love the fourth one, and again, not only because I'm probably talking to people who either are parents or certainly love kids, would I teach this? Hello, come on. Thank you. Would I teach this thought, emotion, or action to a child? Whoosh. Have you noticed that just kind of takes the cake? I mean, I don't know anybody who would teach this on purpose to a child. And therefore, I think we can say that, no, this isn't purposeful. No, it's probably not working for me. It's certainly not making the statement I want to make about who I am. And no, I wouldn't dream of teaching this to a child. So it allows us to evaluate from the neocortex whether we want to hang on to any of this. And it also allows us then to generate a response that is chosen on purpose, that is more likely to help me be effective over here, that is the statement I want to make about who I am, and certainly something that I would teach to a child. Because we've started off by, let me show you what that feels like. Take a deep breath. Say the word relax on the exhale. And then ask these 4 neocortex questions. Purposeful, working, statement, teach to someone I love. Because those are 4 neocortex steps, along with 4 neocortex questions, I call them the 4 criteria, because we can use those for not only asking ourselves what we want to hold on to, and this is all about what you want. Nobody's pointing a finger and said, you should be more understanding, young lady. This is you deciding how you want to be. Now, the problem that I think we would all recognize is that when we're caught in this cycle, we're not asking ourselves these kind of questions, are we? Matter of fact, would it be fair to say we're worried about some stressor over here? Fair to say? Do you remember when you first started worrying, by the way? Most people can't. And I'm going to suggest the reason that most of us can't remember when we first started worrying is because most of us were taught to worry by someone who loved us. I mean, just think. You're a little kid. You're about to go out and play. What did your mom almost always tell you? Be careful, which means watch out for bad things happening, right? And she told us all these things to watch out for, like big dogs, men with candy. Right? Playing in the street. Now, I'm not here to say we shouldn't tell our kids to be careful. My wife and I, Georgia and I, we have 2 kids, Christopher and Nicholas. We tell them to be careful. I'm just not sure that when we heard our mom say, be careful, I'm not sure we heard her say, be full of care for yourself and others. No. She told us what to watch out for, what to worry about, with the idea that if we worry about it enough, somehow we will be safe from it, or worry keeps you safe. This has become a cultural norm. When you meet someone today who isn't worried, don't you get a little bit worried about them? Because we're afraid that if you're not worried, something's going to get you. But let me show you, worry has a very specific reaction in our body. Let me show you what it is. I'm going to ask you to do something. It's kind of weird, but I won't tell anybody you did it, okay? It'll be our secret. I won't tell anybody you did it. And you don't have to touch anybody. Don't worry about that, Psychologists, make me touch. No, I don't have to touch anybody. Don't worry. All you got to do is take your hand, hold it up to your mouth like this. I know it's weird, but it'll be important in a minute. All right. Imagine you have in your hand a lemon. See the bumpy yellow rind of the outside of the lemon? Now we slice the lemon in half, and now you can see the shiny yellow pulp of the inside of the lemon. If you squeeze the lemon, juice squirts up. You begin to smell the pungent odor of the lemon. Now everybody take a big bite of your lemon. All right, we'll put your lemon down now. Do you notice what happened? Muscle, saliva. Some people are going, salt, margarita, help me out here, Some people taste lemon juice. That's how powerful that is. Okay. Here's something really, really important. There is no lemon. However, you have just changed the chemical makeup of your body. Anything that happened as a result of you imagining biting into the lemon, that was a chemical change in your body, the saliva, the muscles. You've just changed the chemical makeup of your body based not on what you held in your hand, but what you held in your imagination. That's how powerful our imagination is. You knew you weren't really biting into the lemon, but your body reacted as if you were. That's how powerful it is. This is a big deal because you want to be able to change the chemical makeup of your body. Let me give you another example. I want to ask you another question. And the only thing about this question, I want you to promise me you will not raise your hand, okay? Promise. Okay. How many people here in the room have ever had a sexual fantasy? Don't raise your hand. Some of you are having them now. Don't want to get in the way of that, It could be the highlight of the seminar for some folks, What did he say? I don't know, but it was a lot of fun. Whee! Okay. If you've ever had a sexual fantasy, you knew it wasn't really happening, but your body thought it was. See, that's how powerful it is. Now, here's the challenge. When we are worrying, we are changing the chemical makeup of our body in very specific ways. Remember, we're releasing adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. Cortisol, as you know, is the big one. If you do any Googling on stress, cortisol is going to be popping up everywhere. The job of cortisol is to rush throughout our body, shutting down our immune system, shutting down our digestive system, shutting down our production of protein, and increasing our production of glucose. Because in a fight or flight situation, that's where we get our energy. But remember, we're not in a fight or flight situation. So what we're doing over and over and over is building up and building up and building up more and more glucose. And of course, glucose is sugar. And sugar, when it's not burned off, turns to... That's why if you've ever tried to lose weight and you were really stressed while you were doing it and it wasn't working, it's because we've been pulling all this cortisol and this glucose into our body. So what I want you to know is you can do something about that. You can begin to have, because see, cortisol and glucose, that's all produced by this lower part of the brain. So what we can do instead of worrying is use this very powerful tool, this imagination, to breathe. Take a deep breath. Say the word relax on the exhale, relax. If I were feeling in a way that was purposeful, worked for me, made the statement I want to make, and something I would teach to a child, in other words, the 4 criteria, then you imagine bringing those qualities to life. I mean, what would it be like if you were practicing feeling peaceful or patient or confident in this situation? It would change your response to the situation. Chemically, mentally, it would have you having access to that clarity, that confidence, and that creativity. So now, instead of worrying and feeling out of control and tense and negative self-talk, what we do is we breathe, relax, we ask the 4 criteria, we imagine bringing that to life, and then I'm going to encourage you to notice the difference. Because at this point in the model, because all of these are neocortex in nature, you will be feeling more calm, more confident, more in control. Plus, the N in notice helps me spell brain. I like my models to spell things, and you would not believe how long it took me to make it spell brain, by the way. But I like this because this is about changing the chemical makeup of our brain, which then changes the chemical makeup of our body. Okay. Oops. We've only got 5 minutes. Well, I'll tell you what let's do. I'll open it up to questions, but I know people are sometimes in their 3-point stance like this, and they got planes to catch. So let's just do this. Let's do the drawing, and then I will hang out up here and answer any questions you have, okay? The question what I'm really going to encourage you to make a distinction about is, how important is your peace of mind? Is it worth taking 10 to 15 seconds to do this model? Because you can do this model in 10 to 15 seconds. Now, in the book, of course, I talk about how to do it in other ways. But the key here is just to make sure you have made your peace of mind at least as important as, diarrhea. When you have diarrhea, it becomes pretty important, doesn't it? Don't you stop driving on the freeway. You stop talking on the phone, right? It becomes the most important thing in your life. Nobody ever says, I'll just deal with this later. And the culture supports the importance of diarrhea in your life. Because if you're talking to someone, you say, I'm sorry, I got to go to the bathroom. They'll say, no problem, it's right down here. Nobody ever says, oh, no, you stay right here. They'll never say it, trust me. So what I'm suggesting is our peace of mind, our serenity, the ability to come from the most intelligent part of the brain ought to be at least as important as diarrhea. That means if you would stop dealing with any of this stuff for diarrhea, you can stop dealing with stress. It's a signal something needs to change. So now, in addition to doing this, you can whisper in your friend's ear, diarrhea. Shut up. They'll know exactly what's happening. Okay. I tell you what, let's do. I'm going to let you take... notice on the cards, by the way, feel free to check any of those boxes about me sending you information or contacting you. But what I really want you to know is down here at the bottom. It says, would you like to receive some of Dr. Bill's favorite quotes by email? I have a service that's absolutely free where every Monday I will send you one of my favorite quotes along with 2 to 3 paragraphs about how to apply that quote in our life. So if you want to get on that list, all you got to do is put your email address down here and check yes. You got to see the yes because I don't want to spam anybody. And then what you can do is you can drop off your cards out toward the back. There's a place on the back for comments. And by the way, did you notice the top of the card is perforated? That's so you can keep it for 2 reasons. Number 1, I believe that any time I have done a workshop or a seminar for any organization, I am your consultant for life. Yeah, so anytime you want to email me or call me and ask me any question, I'll be happy to answer it for free. Now, if it turns into a 45-minute conversation, we might call that a session, and we'll talk about that. But in, 10 or 15 minutes, I'll be happy to answer that. So you can just take that, put that on the back there. And here's how we're going to do the drawing. We're going to go with birthdays. Anybody today have a birthday? That's pretty close. That may be the closest one. So nobody today. Yesterday was yours? Anybody else yesterday? You win the prize! Yay! Okay, you get to choose. The Life from the Top of the Mind book has everything we talked about here. It also, by the way, has something that shows you how when you're dealing with difficult people, how do you engage them in such a way so they shift from their brainstem to their neocortex. Ooh. Now, it also has the how to get kids to do what you want or how to eat anything you want anytime you want and never gain weight. Which one would you like? Oh. I tell you what, I'll just leave them with you. You choose, and then you can let me know. You're welcome. All right. Well, just to make sure we do end on time, because I know this is challenging, I will kind of finish up, and then again, feel free to come up and ask me any questions you have. If you recognize, we started with this particular quote from Albert Einstein. Problems cannot be solved at the same level of awareness that created it. Hopefully today we've raised our level of awareness about what's going on here. That it's not difficult people, difficult situations making us feel this way. It's just data being sent to the wrong part of the brain. Good information. There's another quote I love to end with that is also from Albert Einstein. And one of the reasons I love it so much is most people wouldn't expect Albert Einstein to say this. It says, there are only two ways to live your life. One is if nothing is a miracle, and the other as if everything is. One as if difficult people, difficult situations make us feel the way they do. And the other as if they provide a pretty miraculous opportunity for us to define ourselves on purpose. One as if there's no purpose in all the stuff we have to deal with in life. And the other as if purpose is all that matters. That's why in many ways I think we've gone beyond what's called all stressed up and nowhere to go, or dealing with stress versus stress dealing with you. We could call this living and working on purpose, or as I like to call it, life from the top of the mind. You've been a great group. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.